Released in 1974, this Mel Brooks written and directed satirical comedy starring Cleveland Little and Gene Wilder would go on to be nominated for 3 Academy Awards, including Best Supporting Actress for Madeline Kahn, Best Film Editing, and Best Song. It currently sits number 6 on the AFI's 100 Films 100 Laughs list, and in 2006 was deemed culturally, historically, or aesthetically important by the Library of Congress and was selected for preservation by the National Film Institute. Today, on You've Never Seen It, we're diving into Blazing Saddles. Welcome to You've Never Seen It, an audio podcast where I'm on a mission to never hear these 4 words again. I'm your host, Allison Salamone, and joining me today to talk about Blazing Saddles is host of the podcast Notorious By Chance, and you can also find him on Left Side, Strong Side over on PJCN channel on YouTube. It's Chance Ellison. Hi, Chance.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on. So, I'm not going to lie. When you told me you wanted to do Blazing Saddles, again, haven't seen it, but I know a lot of the history with Blazing Saddles. And so I've been intrigued to ask, like, why this specific Mel Brooks movie and why this one in general?
This is one that I think now especially has a lot of misconception about it. So I did want to come and talk a bit about it. And also, I do think it stands as one of the greater parody spoof films ever made, and it's a highlight of Mel Brooks' illustrious career. So it's one that's and it's the one that I hold dear to my heart as well. So that's why I wanted to come and talk this one.
I love that. Then before even kind of getting into the deep dive with this film, give me like a little bit of background just for you and movies in general. When did your love of film start? And even like, do you have a giant love for Mel Brooks, or is there a specific genre that you are into? Like, just give me your full rundown, your history.
Yeah. So I've been in movies since I could walk to the VHS, walk to the television. It's actually the thing my mom used to, the story my mom tells, like how one night she just saw me. I put me to bed. She woke up because my TV was on. She thought she left it on, and so she went to go turn it off. And she sees me wide awake watching a movie, then I'm like under 2 years old at this point, watches me climb out of my own crib, take the movie out, rewind it, put it back in, and climb back in.
Look at you.
And yeah, so I mean, movies has been a big thing for me my entire life. And I mean, what really my favorite genre of all time, probably animation. Okay. I really do love animation a lot. I just think I'm also a big fan of like classic artwork, so that's something that appeals to my sensibilities. But I use that and kind of spun that off into discovering all different kinds of genres of film, like sci-fi and comedy. When it comes to Mel Brooks, it's a guy that it was funny. Like I remember we had so many movies of his in my old house, and they're always the ones that like I was never allowed to watch. There's so many that I wasn't allowed to watch. But then one day, I think the first Mel Brooks movie I watched was Spaceballs.
Okay.
Because I'm a massive Star Wars fan, and I'm like, oh man, this is hilarious, and I loved it. Then I ended up watching Robin Hood Men in Tights, and I love that one too. But then it wasn't until later in life that I started discovering his earlier parodies. And the thing with Mel Brooks, the fact that when you become a bigger film fan, a lot of the parodies become funnier, like High Anxiety, funny on its own. But if you're a massive Hitchcock fan like I am, the movie's hilarious because it nails so many Hitchcock tropes. And I think another thing that really kind of cemented my love of movies is my hometown, El Paso, Texas. We have this like old timey theater called the Plaza, and every summer they would do these like big film festivals, and they would show like all these classic films, and that's how I got to see so many of my favorite movies for the first time. Like that's how I saw Jaws for the first time, Psycho, Wizard of Oz, Singing in the Rain, and they bring a lot of guests out. Like I remember the one year they had like Peter Bogdanovich and Tippi Hedren for The Birds. Oh, wow. One year they had like Al Pacino came one year. I got to see a whole Q&A with him. That was just fascinating.
That's cool.
Yeah, Debbie Reynolds, who was again El Paso native, she came back for Singing in the Rain. Rita Moreno came this past year. I wasn't there for that. F. Murray Abraham was there the past year. My brother was there. He got to see Amadeus on the big screen for the first time.
F. Murray
Uh,
Abraham, what an
yeah.
icon! What an icon that
Oh,
man is.
absolutely.
I gotta ask though,
Oh,
for Singing in the Rain, when it comes to your who you think is the better dancer, are you team Gene Kelly or team Donald O'Connor?
look, Donald O'Connor's great. He's hilarious, but like Gene Kelly is one of the best to ever do it on film.
You're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong. Did you ever see I have to ask about this now just because I also adore Singing in the Rain. My husband has loved that movie for forever, and I just recently watched it with him like a couple years ago. But right after that, he showed us this video on YouTube of like a dance number that Donald O'Connor did where he was on roller skates the entire time. It's the
was this post Xanadu?
No, I think it might have been before, but it was like it's like him and like some little girl, but it's the most wild thing. You have to go and see it. Like you just
I will look that up.
just Google Donald O'Connor on roller skates. The guy is insane. But that's really cool. What a cool theater. I don't get shit like that in Orlando.
Really?
I mean, not that I'm aware of. Like we have one theater that's
Well,
like kind of fun. We have the Enzion, which is like one of those single screen. You can have like a membership to go there, nonprofit kind of thing, and they play some like the more art house films, and then they do like their cult classic Tuesdays once a month, and like Music Mondays once a month, but like nothing cool like that. I'm so jealous.
This is like one of those like super like giant like old school theaters, like when you see like the 40s and 50s and stuff.
Oh, that's so cool.
And like, experiencing movies like that for the first, it's an indescribable feeling getting to see a movie for the first time like that.
Yeah.
And I did that. I literally did that every summer when I lived there.
That's so
and
cool.
it was incredible just seeing like all these like fantastic movies.
Yeah.
Like that for the first time, which is it's just an indescribable feeling for me.
That's so cool. We did again, this like Enzion Theater here did one of their cult classics was Ed Wood. But they were doing it on like the actual film, like the reel-to-reel film. And at one point, like as we were watching the movie, we actually got to see like the film burn up real quick and like dissipate, and then they like restarted from right there. And I was like, oh my god, I was like, so that's what movies were like. That's cool.
Yeah, and actually, like down here, we have an indie theater. I'm sure PJ talked about it. Called The Loft. Yeah. It's literally the only theater in the state that can show movies in 70 millimeter.
That's cool.
And they just started showing 70 millimeter again. And actually, we went pretty recently to go watch. What did we watch? Oh, we watched Lawrence of Arabia, which I hadn't seen, and because I was waiting to see it for the first time in a theater. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, well, here we go. Let's do this. And
that's so cool.
Yeah, like 70 millimeters, like that's an excellent film watching experience.
Oh, for sure. Oh, definitely. And then, but getting back into what we were here for, Blazing Saddles. So, have you seen like all of Mel Brooks's filmography? Because I know I haven't. I've been more of like I've seen Young Frankenstein. I think that still might be I think that might be my favorite out of the ones that I've seen.
That one's like up there for me. Like to go back and forth. I felt more inclined to talk Blazing. You've also seen Frankenstein. So that was an option, but I would still decide to talk Blazing. I think it's a more interesting conversation to have. But yeah, like Young Frankenstein is excellent, and the fact that he did both of those the same year.
Oh, really?
Is just they both came out 74.
Okay. I did not know. Mel Brooks is just a genius. Like, can we just give him all of the flowers for how amazing he is?
Absolutely. I've seen literally everything he's directed, and usually for better, one time for worse, because I don't really care for directed and loving it. He's always hitting.
Yeah.
He's mostly hitting. Like there's some jokes in a couple movies of his. I'm just like, okay, I can see where you're going, and it didn't quite land, but a lot of the times when he's hitting, and he's hitting hard.
For sure. And he does it so because so even like talking about Blazing Saddles, when I was watching it, I was within like the first 5 minutes, and I sent you a Twitter message. I sent my husband a Twitter message. I was like, I think I've just yelled yikes. Like he went hard in that first scene of like with the
With
language
the railroad.
the
Yeah.
whole railroad scene. Like,
No, like, and that's the thing that I think people like nowadays people kind of take umbrage with it just because like
sure.
it's a movie directed by a Jewish man about. Funny thing about this movie is the fact that I think one of the most interesting things that a lot of people don't know is the fact that it was originally meant to star Richard Pryor.
I actually had that in my notes. I had
Yeah.
saw that, and then according to the research I did on Wikipedia, it was supposed to be Richard Pryor.
It was.
But because of his like
he was still on drugs at the time,
Right.
so the studio wouldn't insure him.
Mhm.
So they ended up getting Cleavon Little, but he's still credited as a writer in the movie.
Right. So, which could you imagine? It's one of those things too, where it's like typically when people tell me certain people were supposed to be in certain roles, I can sit back and be like, well, I guess, but I like who it is that's in this one. Knowing that Richard Pryor was also originally supposed to be in that role, I'm like, that would have been really funny too. Like
I think Pryor would have done well with the role of Bart, but I think that Cleavon Little adds this level of dramatism that I don't think Pryor necessarily does. Like again,
Yeah.
when he's funny, he's very funny.
Mhm.
But I think that, for lack of a better word, in a lot of the film, he is kind of the straight man.
Yes.
I think that fits his skill set better than it would have Pryor at the time.
I think it does make him shine while showing all the fucking idiots that are just how white people, how my subset of white people are all fucking idiots. Like morons, as Gene Wilder said.
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that something that Mel Brooks did really well in his parody films, and he did that really well in Young Frankenstein, is the fact that he took a lot of care to make these movies feel as authentic to the movie they're parodying as possible. Because I think that's a step people underrate when making a good parody film. Like, you look at Young Frankenstein, for example, because of the way it's shot and because of the way it's put together, you're watching it and you're thinking like, oh, like what if this did happen in the original Frankenstein? And like that kind of contrast makes a lot of these jokes funnier. So with Color Blazing Saddles, you have a lot of these characters act like they would in like a real Western, or you had that same like grainy feel, or that same kind of set design, same costume design, but you're taking it and you're like adding in jokes. I think that's like an important step for great parody. I think that Mel Brooks consistently did that really well in his career.
I think every character he plays, even in his own movies, he plays so well. So like we have him as like the governor in this one, just his facial expression doing like the cross-eyed thing. I mean, he's not only is he just a good writer, a good director, a good actor, he's really good at like what's the term I'm thinking of? Just not just comedy, but like the way that he does, I can't even think of the word. It's like yes.
Yeah, no,
yes.
He
the
does.
Physical comedy. That's it. That's the word I'm looking for.
No, I think like Brooks was. I mean, he's most known for being a writer, and he's an excellent writer. One of the best of his era. He's a really good director, but like as an actor, I feel like really kind of underrated his skills. And that's the fact that because he's always putting himself in projects where like he's never really the focus. Like there's a couple where he's more front and center, but like a lot of times he's kind of downplayed and sort of trying to be there to highlight the chops of other people, but he does bring a lot of great laughs himself. Like especially the scene where he meets Bart for the first time.
Yeah,
and he can't. And he's like, "I need to talk to you real quick." You know, the sheriff said, "Oh wait, no, not you. Yeah, get back over there." And then he calls over Hedley Lamar.
Hedy Lamar, Hedley. Oh my gosh. Hedley. It's so funny that how they all keep saying his name wrong, and then he has the whole speech at the end, or like the end. He's like, "And if we do this, I will win the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor."
You risk your lives, I risk an Oscar nomination for Best Supporting Actor, which is funny considering Madeline Kahn was nominated Best Supporting Actress.
Yes. That same year, so that was. She was nominated for that, and then he was nominated for Best Song with Blazing Saddles in the same year that he also was nominated. The Young Frankenstein was nominated that year as well. Yeah. It looks like for Best Writing. But it's so crazy in all the stuff that he has done. He's only ever won one Oscar.
Yeah, I mean the producers was the one that really kind of like announced his presence, and
Yeah.
that film's excellent. I love that movie.
I love that one. I even
But
honestly that one, it's one of those things too where like where there's a remake of it and I actually don't hate the remake. I mean, I like the original better,
if
but
if you had anybody else in the lead as
it would never have worked.
else uh as I think it was Leo, whoever Gene Wilder played, and Matthew Broderick plays. If you had anybody else, that movie would have been so much better. But just like
You're
no,
not a Matthew Broderick fan.
I am
No,
not.
no,
No.
oh, never mind. Wrong, wrong audience. Yeah, no, I can see that. Matthew Broderick is he can be a tough sell for some people.
My problem with Broderick is the fact like and I know we're going to but like, my problem with Broderick is like he never commits. Like every time he gives a line, it's like he doesn't know what he wants to say, so he says it like really like this, like really like not committing to anything. It's the thing that drives me nuts his entire career. And I think he detracts from a lot of great. Like I think a lot of movies that he's in are great despite of him.
Okay, I mean, I don't think I've seen. I mean, I'm a big fan of Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I've always really liked that one.
I love that movie, so
But
I'll give him that one. Like Lion King is great despite him.
I forgot he's a voice of the Lion King.
Yeah, you remember how two of the blackest actors made two of the whitest actors somehow.
Touche. You are not you are not wrong there. So with this movie, so if you could rank like your top 5 Mel Brooks movies, where would you put Blazing Saddles?
Honestly, it fights for number one between that and Young Frankenstein. I think that, especially like rewatching it in recent years, I think that film is just incredibly brilliant.
Yeah.
Lampooning not just like perceived racial inequalities at the time, but also lampooning like old school westerns at the same time, and not just that, but like old school western filmmaking.
Yeah.
Like you look at that whole scene where you have Mel Brooks playing a Native American character. That's something you would have seen in an original in like a 40s, 50s, 60s era western.
Yeah.
And it would have been fine, but like the fact that they do it, like they play like no, this is like he's not condoning it. Like it's not like red face. It's not like doing that to make fun of. He's not making fun of Native Americans. He's making fun of the fact of film. He's making fun of filmmakers who cast white people as Native Americans.
Right. Or like what's his face from God, what hold on. I got see now I have to look this guy up. But I know like around that time it was what was his name?
I think of John Wayne.
No, I'm thinking of no, here Yul Brynner is who I'm thinking of.
Oh, right.
And how like he plays one, like they put him in brownface for like one thing, and like all of a sudden he's like he was such a nut job because of this shit. Like when he did The King and I, and when he did The Magnificent Seven, and like the shit, like he just would go on these, and it's like, no, dude, like you're very much a white man.
Yeah.
Like you're very much white, but like that's what the Laurence Olivier with like just straight up like was
again John Wayne the Conqueror.
Yeah, it's just like it's so like that is more uncomfortable than like I feel like looking back on how we would used to do things, like that to me is a little bit more uncomfortable than like watching Mel Brooks make fun of it.
It's the same case of Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder, where no, he's not doing blackface. He's lampooning the lengths actors will go to play a part, no matter how stupid it is.
Right. And I think like it's so funny you bring up Tropic Thunder because like personally I'm not a fan of Tropic Thunder. I'm not, and it's one of those things like I think it's a funny movie, but for on my end of it, like, and I get what they're doing, and in a way now that I've seen, honestly, it's so funny. It's like talking about it now is I think with how much I disliked it, and I just come from it from a standpoint of like I have a brother with Down syndrome, so the use of like the R word and the way that it was thrown out to me, I'm just not a fan of. I'm not, judging anyone who loves it. To me, that just wasn't for me. But now that I've seen Blazing Saddles and you bring up Tropic Thunder with it, personally, I'm kind of seeing like some of these similarities with how they're making fun of like how Hollywood does things. And it's
Yeah.
kind of more of an eye-opening thing versus watching something on a surface level that I've done for so many years. Because I really haven't watched Tropic Thunder since the first time I saw it like 15 years ago, maybe.
It's
So,
funny. Like Tropic Thunder, I think is a film that gets like kind of gets better as the years goes on. As like
mhm.
as we're learning, like the mystique of celebrities is falling, and we're seeing more about like this like filmmaking and how the craft of it is done. Like the more you know about
Yeah.
that, the funnier that movie gets, and the more inside baseball you are with Hollywood, the funnier that movie is.
Mhm. Which then makes sense because it's almost, I don't know if I would like, I feel like, because I don't think you can remake Blazing Saddles. Like, you cannot
Yeah.
make the movie that is Blazing Saddles today and not piss off the entire world. Like, there's just no way you could. But I feel like the closest you're going to get to that is probably a Tropic Thunder. Now that
Yes.
and so I think I might actually give Tropic Thunder a rewatch now and see if I
I
can get past my own biases.
I would, but yeah, I mean, a lot of people point towards like the racial stereotypes and the overuse of the N word in this movie, but the reason that's done is because it is kind of highlighting where we were at the time, like like black people were still seen as inferior, black people were still
Mhm.
seen as like second class citizens, even though civil rights was already over, racism was still a thing.
Right.
So again, Mel Brooks had the idea, like, you know what? Yeah, how would they react to the Old West if a black man was the sheriff? And this was cinema's very first black sheriff.
That's cool. That's fun.
Yeah.
But I think like a kind of a good point into that too is like, what would it be like? You have, first of all, everyone just being not about it when he first shows up. But then after he
Yes.
saves the town and then the little old lady comes up and brings him a pie and she's like, and I'm sorry for using that word with you. And then comes back, she goes, also, you're not going to tell anyone about this.
Yeah, no, I think that the whole like a bigger message of the film is just like how just the breaking down, how the idea of breaking down barriers it's a process.
Yes.
And it's not easy, but it is something that is possible with effort.
For sure. No, I could definitely see that.
Like little by little, he wins. He does win over this town.
Yeah, and he does it along, and you have, it also helped where like, even not only that is not just him, but like you have Mongo who comes in, who's this big brute of a guy that's scaring everybody. And then even Mongo, like when they say, okay, you're free to go, he's like, well, I don't want to go. You're like the first person that's been nice to me. Like,
Exactly. Like another part of the movie is just like seeing what's underneath,
Mhm.
because like with Wilder's character, Waco kid, he's seen as this, like this fast-handed shooting, like quick-handed
Yeah.
gun shooting guy, but like there's so much more to him than that, and that's the thing. Like you learn, like the more you see about these characters, like a big thing of that is like there's more to them that if you look a little further, there's more to them than what you think.
Yes, agreed. No, for sure. It was also really nice to finally, this movie is one of those ones that like I've heard quoted all the time.
Yeah.
And it's so nice to like put like actual context to it.
Right.
Like Cleavon Little when they're coming through, when they're trying to steal the KKK members' hoods, and he pulls them out and you just see Cleavon,
what do I mean? I do love that one. I think that's really funny. To me, it's also just like so incredibly quotable. Like I love that one. Somebody go back and get a shitload of dimes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Which that cracks me up because it's just there's the toll booth, but it's just like you could just go around it.
Yeah, it also does a great job of lampooning like the common intelligence at the time.
Yeah.
Because like they would absolutely not think to just go around. They would they would just go back and get a bunch of dimes to just go pay through.
Just pay it. Or like how they put together the entire fake town and then they're like, we forgot the people. Like, like that didn't
never dawned on them.
Yeah. The other quote that I got that I can't remember. I used to hear it all the time. And so I don't know if it was something around Disney or whatever, but it's just that whole line where he's about to do the dynamite. He's like, hold your ears, folks. It's showtime. Like, I don't know, but it was like as soon as I heard it, I was like, "Oh fuck, I know that one." I've heard like everyone say it. But yeah, no, it's. I mean, the quotes that I'm allowed to say are very quotable. That there's some that I should 100% not be saying in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, one of my favorite scenes is always going to be the one where he gets into town for the first time.
Uh-huh.
Like, I just think, like, as a comedic scene, I think that's brilliant. Just because like the sound design where you have the guy trying to shout the new sheriff, and you just you hear the bell.
Yeah.
I always
They're
like,
saying he's near.
yeah, I always crack up when like they see him, the sign just flicks up.
Yeah, and then he comes and he pulls it back down.
Yeah.
That's epic. Yeah. No, that's a good. He's so good. But I feel like we have to also, since she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, Madeline Kahn's performance in this movie and how amazing I feel like she was.
I mean, it's a big deal even now, just because even now the Academy's reputation for just like ignoring comedy.
Yeah.
Like, it's very rare you see a comedic performance even get nominated, much less win.
Right.
So seeing her get in, and yeah, she's. What's funny about her performance is just that it's kind of lampooning how a lot of these actresses who back in like old Hollywood, even though they were nowhere near from where the character were playing, they tried their best, and like half the time it failed, because like you look at this performance, like it's kind of German, kind of Southern, kind of Jersey. It's just.
And then when all else fails, she just has the speech impediment of can't say her R's or L's.
Yeah.
Which I also felt, so I watched this too, just to make sure I had it, because I was understanding everyone. I watched it with the subtitles on.
And every R is a W.
It's a W. That was dying. But I also had PTSD because I have the same speech impediment as a child. I did. I could not say my R's or L's, which my maiden name is Mitchell and my middle name is Farrell. So when your
parents really screwed you then.
My parents fucked me hard. I was Allison Farrell Mitchell all the way until through third grade.
You got the page for Brady's speech impediment.
I did. It was definitely the page for Brady. Yeah. I had to go and I got pulled out of class once a week or twice a week for 30 minutes to go do speech so I could get rid of but every now and then, it's even been, because I've been with my husband, we've been together as in like a couple for like a decade. And there's been times where like we might have an argument and I'll get so heated that I'll slip up on how I say something and my speech impediment comes out. Instantly stops the fight though. Because like we both just sit there, we're like,
start laughing.
Like, what the fuck did you just say? Why so serious all the time? So, yeah. That's the other one we get to. But that killed me. It was watching her when she just seeing like the W's come up with it.
Yeah.
But again, like they're hiring her to try to, break the sheriff and, like leave him like chasing after her. And he's again just a really nice guy. And he just leaves and he's like, I gotta get out of here. And like then she's the one that's like, no, but you're gonna come back, right? Like you're
It's the fact that like the thing is like they don't see him, like they don't see Bart.
Yeah.
But they send people to try to take care of him. They see him, and when they see him, they go turncoat.
Mm-hmm. And it's so endearing. I love it so much. And it's Bart's just a nice guy.
He is.
Except
he wants to do right by the town, honor the star that he's been given.
Right.
The entire town that hates him. He's still going to try and do right.
He is. And I mean, this is such Gene Wilder was just such a phenomenal actor.
He was.
Every single time I see him in something new, I'm just, or like new to me, I'm just like, oh, he's so good. I just want to watch more of his stuff. I still have to see, I should put it on my list to do, but I've still not seen, what is it? Hear No Evil, See No Evil. Yeah, I have not seen that one, and I think
that between the two of them, Pryor and Wilder, because they were really good friends in real life, which led to him being cast in this. Something that I think Silver Streak is their best collaboration. I really like that one quite a bit.
I'll add that one. We'll have you back for that one. I'll put that one on the list.
I do love me some Silver Streak.
That's I just love Gene Wilder so much.
He's a guy who. What's great about Wilder is he can go from like really grounded, really mellow, and just go to being like this just insane, crazy mess. And he was able to do like both sides incredibly well. Here, he does more of the restrained type performances. We got the unhinged Wilder and Young Frankenstein the same year, but this is the more restrained Wilder. But he brings such a gravitas to this role, where like he's this guy who like he's been like it's kind of like this guy who's like lived this giant full life, and I was like, I just want to take it easy for a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. He like. Again, like we talk about that physicality again, right? Like he's like, you see this hand? It becomes like steady as a rock. He's like, this is my shooting hand. just shake it. He's and for the longest time, the only thing I'd ever actually really seen him in, or at least was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, me too.
Which
that was my intro to Wilder.
Yeah, that was like my only one. And then I watched the original Producers and fell even more in love with him.
Yeah, like there's a lot of like really like well respected great actors in this. Like Slim Pickens.
Yes.
Who most famous for being in Doctor Strangelove, and he's fantastic, and he's fantastic in this too.
I loved Doctor Strangelove. I think I said it on my Shining episode, but I'm pretty sure Doctor Strangelove is like the one Kubrick film I actually like that I've seen.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, Shining was fine.
I really like The Shining. My favorite is Clockwork Orange. I adore that movie.
So I haven't seen that one yet. I need to add, that's on the list to do eventually. Have not seen Clockwork Orange. I've seen Full Metal Jacket, and I think I'm on like the whole thing of like I love the first half of it.
Yeah,
and then the second half.
Full Metal Jacket's like an excellent first half and a great second half.
Yeah.
Like nothing pops as well after Arlie Ermey and Vincent D'Onofrio exit the movie,
right.
But it's still a great film. One of my personal favorites of Kubrick that I find is kind of underrated is Eyes Wide Shut. I think that movie's I think it's brilliant.
I remember it not being very well liked.
It was the thing that confused a lot of people, just because like you had like. In a time where Tom Cruise was like he was part actor star, part serious actor, and that was like the really serious
that was like
Tom Cruise.
Vanilla Sky Tom Cruise.
Yes, around like Vanilla Sky last time around. Yes, Vanilla Sky Tom Cruise. But yeah, I think that I think of the collaboration between him and his then wife Nicole Kidman, I think like that is easily their best. It's not even close.
Okay. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that one either.
Another underrated Kubrick one I think is Barry Lyndon, which is it's very long, but it's a really great movie.
Yeah, people are like, I've had this, like, either you love what Kubrick does for the most part, or you're just like...
Yeah, just really like, eh.
Yeah, or like, I mean, I'm gonna watch it because I feel like I have to now that I've started this podcast.
Right.
But also, like, it's not what I'm going up. That's why I don't have, like, a theme with any of these movies that I do. I'm just like, you want to be on my podcast? You got time? Cool, because I got to get an episode out. What do you want to watch?
Right.
Is how it kind of boils down to it. But I don't usually go through all the filmographies. But, so like I'm trying to get through now as many Hitchcocks as I can. And I think I'm probably going to put a lot more Mel Brooks on my list because I didn't realize how much he's done that I haven't seen.
The thing about Brooks is the fact that like a lot of his movies are like, well, first he has a very small filmography. The challenge with Brooks is the fact that like a lot of his movies are hard to find. Like one in particular is Silent Movie, which is like very difficult to come across.
Yeah. Nope. That's true. That is very, honestly, I didn't know how I was going to watch Blazing Saddles at first because we don't own it.
Was it not on HBO? Is it not HBO Max anymore?
I don't know if it still is, but I also have Hulu and I saw it was on there and I was like, yes.
Yeah, I remember for a bit it was on HBO Max.
It was on there for a bit.
And I remember I tuned in and it had a disclaimer like video beforehand and was like, really?
Oh, is it one of those now?
Yeah,
it doesn't do that on Hulu. Hulu just says it has language in it, but that's
TCM did like a whole disclaimer video, just like, okay, guys, let us explain this movie. Just like, okay, no, you don't got to do this. Stop.
That's the thing. Is like he's explaining it it's like having to explain for people who just don't. If you don't understand Mel Brooks and what he's doing, you're just not going to understand this movie, regardless of like when you saw it, if it's of its time, if it's because really I was talking with previous guest friend of the show, Jeff Alterman, when I told him I was watching this, and someone had mentioned it being of the time, and it was like, well, yeah, it was, but also like it wasn't, like, or it is, but it's still of this time. Like
It is.
the way that people are still treated, it hasn't changed much.
No, it hasn't. I think that's what makes this movie still relevant, and I think that people kind of writing it off because of these the N word and the one scene of red face. I think they're kind of ignoring the larger point of the movie, which is why I wanted to
Right.
talk about it. Just like I feel like people are kind of in a way kind of misunderstanding what this movie is really trying to say. And it's all about. It's not contributing to racial inequality. It's trying to highlight it and sort of lampoon it in a way.
Mm-hmm. And get to the bigger picture of like everyone's a deep down, people can be good people, but you have the fact that you have to work so hard and how much harder you have to work to be accepted by a group of individuals is still so absurd that we're still doing like everything that's happening in this movie in 1974 that we're making fun of. The amount of work that people are of just people of color, LGBTQIA plus community, like anyone who's not a cis white person, or even it's really just a white man, the amount of work that we're still doing almost 50 plus years later is mind-boggling. That like we're still, it almost at times it almost still feels like we're right there.
No, yeah, 100%. And I think that's what makes this movie still relevant. I think why people should still watch it. Not to mention, like it is just very funny. I think that it definitely earns a spot in the pantheon of great spoof films.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's quotable. It got like a lot of great characters, and yeah, it has something like really interesting and genuine to say at the center of it.
For sure. I think it's still on, again, doing my Wikipedia research, because if it's on Wikipedia, it's true. It's on the AFI's
Yeah,
100 Films for 100 Laughs list.
yeah.
I
I
think it
think
like
it was
sits at number six.
six, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
Yeah. So, I mean, it also, back in 2006, it was kept up for, or was, what was the term that I used? I have it in my own intro. It was selected for preservation by the National Film Institute.
Mhm.
So it's one of those ones that's in the Library of Congress for being culturally or aesthetically significant. So, I mean, there's people who get what it's doing. You
Yeah.
just have to, I mean, maybe people who are uncomfortable with it, like, what does that say about you?
Yeah, right.
Right? Like, if you can't get, like, I mean, to be honest, again, like, I've never seen it. I've only heard about it. So those first 5 minutes I was like, whoo. But also, like, I sat back and I was like, it's Mel Brooks. Like, what else was I expecting for it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that of R-rated comedy, this is the one. This is one of the ones I think like really uses the R rating really well.
Yes.
Mostly because of it's all the dialogue. Also, yeah,
Yeah.
you take out all the N words. This is like a PG at best.
Oh, for sure. It's 100% the amount of the N words being, which then
But
it's also, as I think about it, is when you think about movies that use the N word in the way that they do, and then you also then you get like a Tarantino and Django,
yeah,
where he's like the insane amounts of the N word, which again, it's the writing and it's of the time, but it's all for like when he's trying to put this movie like in place. But even then, it's like, it almost is like he gets a pass because everyone's like, oh, it's Tarantino. That's just what he does. He's always, you know what I mean? Like, but it's like, but should you? Like, like where can we draw a line with things like that?
I think it's okay if it serves a purpose. Like
Mm-hmm.
if it's just superfluous, I think that's a little too much. But like in this movie and in like Tarantino films, like like Django, or like Django or Hateful Eight's another good
Mm-hmm.
example, where you have black characters who, well, okay, like look at like this one, actually all of them in particular, where a big factor of the film is the racial stigma at the time. I think that
Right.
that's fine. I don't see that as an issue because like yeah, like this probably is how they would be a black chef would be referred to at the time. and it is uncomfortable, and
Yeah.
it is like tough to hear, but I mean it's not incorrect. It
Right.
like I think that it's a perfect example, even though I do love the movie, like Pulp Fiction, when
Mm-hmm.
he's dropping the N word like in that scene to Jules and Vincent. I'm just like, it
Oh,
feels a little
the
unnecessary,
dead
but
the
a little
dead
loud.
storage.
Yeah.
Speaking of that scene, I
Easiest
probably
time.
shouldn't tell this joke, but like I saw something on like I can't remember it, like, but I saw like a meme, and it was Winnie the Pooh as the Tarantino character, or no, it was Piglet as the Tarantino with the bathrobe and the mug,
Uh-huh.
and Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore as John Travolta and Samuel L. Jackson, and the piglet sitting there and he goes, is there a sign that says dead Tigger storage on my front yard?
Oh, this is also really bad. But like this is me by a black friend of mine. It's this is so bad, but it was when the Little Mermaid trailer came out, the new one,
Uh-huh.
and it was just like a it was like a meme tweet from like, and it said, do you think the call sheet said Ginger and the casting director was dyslexic? And like I lost it. I'm just like, oh,
No.
that's so bad, but that's
Oh
so
no,
true.
I'm gonna cut out my own laughing on that one because
That's fun.
for those who don't know, Chance is
Yes, I'm of the African American persuasion.
for anyone wondering, it is we'll throw that in there. That is funny though.
That is
I
funny.
mean,
I thought
I
it was
couldn't say it, but I get it. That's terrible. That's terrible. Anyway, back to Blazing Saddles after I've gotten myself canceled. It's fine. I have like 25 listeners. If anything, I'll lose like 5 of them. So I'm not too worried.
I'll give you the pass. I'll say it's okay. I'll say it's okay to laugh.
It's
I
okay.
do.
Okay, perfect.
I will see the movie to support Haley Bailey, but I do think it was funny.
It was hilarious. That is funny. That's pretty. That's a good one. That's probably the best joke that I've seen about it
Yeah.
ever. But getting back into Blazing Saddles, I always like to ask my guests when I have them on and they're talking about a movie that they love, what their top 3 moments are. Like specifically, it doesn't have to be in any order unless you want to rank them, but like what are your top 3 moments?
Okay, so one, I already mentioned it, is the scene where Bart gets into town.
Mm-hmm.
I think that scene's hilarious. This is just the way, just the pure comedy of reaction from everybody, I think is phenomenal. I think he has some like really great timing, like that with the banner, and just like the way that scene ends with him holding himself at gunpoint. I think, and just like, and then them buying it is like, okay, well, he's serious. Let him
Still do it.
Shut up! You're gonna get him killed. Yeah, I think that's really funny. Another one for me, it's very tough, but I do want to highlight a song. I do think Mel Brooks, in addition to being a great screenwriter, was also an excellent songwriter.
Uh-huh.
And one of my favorite song in this is probably always going to be the Ballad of Rock Ridge.
Uh-huh.
It's the song where like they just get like the crash chorus of what's been going on in this town.
Yeah.
And I always just found the song just hilarious, especially the ending lyrics.
Yeah. Oh,
My
that's a good
town
one.
is slipping into shit. Yeah, I just adore that song. And the last moment I'm going to talk about is, I mean, we haven't talked about it yet. Surprisingly, it's the ending. The scene where when they're having the big fight in the town, you zoom out, they're on the WB lot, and they scroll over to just another set.
Yeah.
With Dom DeLuise, who I love. He was a frequent Mel Brooks collaborator. You see that guy a lot if you watch his movies. And you just have the fight just crash into the set, and the brawl just continues across the studio lots.
That whole song too, that whole scene of like, again, you're getting into like he's making fun of like people like trying to put like it was wrong to be queer in the 70s, you know, and like so we're doing the whole that whole song with the bottoms out, and they're just
Throw out your hands, stick out your tush, hands on your hips, give them a push.
Push.
Yeah, and like when he when he drops the F word, and then he just like
Yes.
does the dance perfectly. I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's really good commentary right there. But yeah, the fact that's the ending, which gets like just so incredibly meta.
It does.
That's another thing that Brooks did incredibly well. Like he was incredible at meta comedy. Like you look at that. You look at Spaceballs, the scene where they get the VHS to try and figure out where everybody else went. Like anytime he broke the fourth wall, like he didn't do it that the entire movie, but like when he did,
yeah.
And the fact that he held restraint, the fact that he waits to do it, and every time he does, he finds a new, creative, innovative way to do it. And I think that this was the genesis of that. And I think it's hilarious.
It was so dope.
I love the way the ending of this film was executed.
It's fantastic. No, you're absolutely right. I can't believe we didn't even like talk about that. The whole ending, and like you have like even like the tour coming through.
Yeah, while everyone's beating the shit out of each other in the cafeteria,
and then they all walk out with like pies on their face, and they're just like,
yeah.
It is such. That is probably one of my favorite endings for any movie that I've seen so far. Doing this whole
and I think that this also did a lot to kind of what's the word I'm looking for. Sort of like parody, especially did a lot to kind of make Breaking the Fourth Wall mainstream. Because you look at this, Airplane did it quite a bit. Just the fact, just showing that like this kind of sets the stage for things like Deadpool and She-Hulk to do what they do and do what they do very well, or even something that's like not a comedy, it's more serious, like Michael Haneke's Funny Games, which I think I think both versions are actually very good. Even they have fourth wall breaks. So like I think that this kind of does set a particular type of standard for this.
Yeah. For sure.
Like parody kind of set the stage to make that a popular trope. And I mean, some people go a little too far with it, but like when it's done right, it's done really right. And yeah, Genesis is right here.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I do have to ask, because I know I brought it up earlier, and you mentioned when I said like, where does this fall into like your top 5 of Mel Brooks? So knowing that like number 1 and 2 alternate between Blazing Saddles and Young Frankenstein, what would you say? What fills out your top 5 Mel Brooks from there?
That's tough. I mean, I already mentioned it, but Spaceballs for sure. Spaceballs, I would say. High Anxiety, I think, is actually quite brilliant. And the toss up. I'm actually gonna lean Silent Movie. I think Silent Movie is actually like, very, very funny.
Okay, very cool. Two more of them that I haven't seen.
Like Silent Movie is great just because like it is a silent movie.
That's funny.
Given all the at the time A-list talent they have in it, and the one line they do have, whoever said like. The person, there's one line in Silent Movie. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but the person who drops that one line is the absolute perfect person to do it.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find this one and see if I can watch it, because that sounds amazing. Like the one thing I know about like Mel Brooks movies, there's specific parts of them that always stick out. Like I feel like it's one of those like I feel like I've seen Spaceballs, because, and I don't know if I've actually sat down and watched it the entire way through, but like I just remember them when Darth Helmet tells them to go comb the desert, and like the troopers are combing
the too little. No, they comb the desert. We're combing it.
We're combing it. Yeah. So like that, or like I feel like I've seen History of the World Part 1, but I also, the only thing I really remember with it is the Spanish Inquisition song.
That's a great one. My favorite bit in that is the Moses sequence. I bring you these 15.
10.
10. Actually, you know what? I totally blanked on the producers. The producers would definitely be a top 5 for me. So I would take that move from the producers. I think the producers is just all kinds of brilliant.
The producers, I think, is like I would even put Gene Wilder and the producers, like his role of the producers, over his role in Willy Wonka. And I love him in Willy Wonka, but I feel like for me, peak Wilder, from what I've seen, I would put him as, now that I think about it, it's between that and Young Frankenstein now. No, I'd probably put Young Frankenstein first, and then the producers.
Yeah, I mean, Producers is the one that got him his surprisingly only Oscar nomination his entire career,
That's so
which
crazy.
is
But again, it's like you talk about how the Academy just overlooks things like, and I was talking about it with PJ too on the Evil Dead episodes, how the Academy really tends to overlook comedies and horror genres.
He was not saying Bruce Campbell should have been nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah, for
no, absolutely not. I love Army of Darkness. I love the Evil Dead movies. No,
I feel like you guys have had this conversation before.
We have it. We will now. No.
Yeah, he says the entire scene of when that whole scene with him in his hand deserved at least a nomination for the physicality and the acting of it.
For Evil Dead 2?
For Evil Dead 2, yeah. Just started texting him like, you're wrong.
I'm trying to see. Okay, Evil Dead was 8. I'm trying to see who was nominated for Best Actor in '87. Because no. Let's see. I'm trying to see, like, is Bruce Campbell better than any of these people?
Let's see.
I'm willing to bet no. Let's see. 87. No. I haven't seen Dark Eye, so maybe he's better than Marcello Mastroianni in Dark Eye, but no. Everyone else, no.
Who else is on that list?
Michael Douglas for Wall Street, who won. Well deserved. He's excellent in Wall Street.
Okay.
William Hurt in Broadcast News. Well deserved. He's phenomenal in Broadcast News. Jack Nicholson in Ironweed, which is actually a really, really underrated performance. I do quite like him a lot in Ironweed. And then Robin Williams for Good Morning Vietnam. So no, he's not. Bruce Campbell's not better than any of those people.
Okay, I've seen Good Morning Vietnam and I've seen Wall Street, so I mean I get it. And then who was? Now we have to look up because he also said Army of Darkness too for the scene with all the little Bruces.
Okay,
he should have been.
So that's a 92. I'm like 90% sure. I'll double check myself. I used to get paid to do this, but Army. It was 92. Okay, so I was right. I'm
you used to get paid to do this. Oh man, when those checks would go through, you got paid. You mean?
Al Pacino's Son of a Woman. I mean, look, I don't think that's deserved. I don't think he deserved to win, but he's not awful in Son of a Woman.
I'll take a flamethrower to this place.
Wow. Robert Downey Jr. in Chaplin. No. Clint Eastwood Unforgiven. No. Stephen Ray in The Crying Game. No. Denzel Washington and Malcolm X. Absolutely not. The only one I can see him beating out is Pacino. That's the only debatable one. Everyone else, absolutely not.
This is amazing. I can't wait to get the rebuttal from you guys are making my bonus content great. I'm gonna have a Patreon after all of this and just have tips with PJ as some bonus content. Well, rolling back into Blazing Saddles, as I like to do at the end of every episode, I go into Letterboxd. Still haven't gotten a cease and desist, so I'm still using them by name. And I will go and rate this out of, the 5 stars. And I mean, it's Blazing Saddles. It's one of the greatest comedies of all time. If I don't rate this 5 stars, I'm an idiot. So, Blazing Saddles. I mean, honestly, it really is. Like, it's not even like no pressure, but like when people say this is one of the greatest comedies of all time, it is. I mean, it's amazing, especially when you start putting things into perspective about it, the way that it's written, the way that everything they do everything with it. 5-star film, 5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a definite 5 out of 5 for me. So
now it'll just be interesting where I started making a list of all of my movies that I talk about on this podcast. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes on said list, because my top 5 so far is When Harry Met Sally, Coming to America, Better Off Dead, Paddington 2, and then Psycho are my top 5.
Wow, I'm a little sad at the Psycho disrespect here, just because I love that movie.
It's a great movie. I don't like scary movies.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, if we're gonna be the fact that like I sat through The Evil Dead for PJ, just let you know how, like, I'm willing to do something for science, almost.
Right.
I refuse to watch a Conjuring movie. Like, I refuse to watch shit that could, like, actually happen. Like, a house can be haunted. I don't know if I believe in ghosts, but I believe enough to not fuck with it. You know what I mean? Like, when they say on the Haunted Mansion, they say, like, the ghost will follow you home. I'm like, I don't doubt it. Like, that's how we roll. My last place film, though, is still The Burbs. So.
Okay. Well, at least that's okay. Because, like, I also don't love The Burbs. I think it's like.
Oh, thank God. I've been getting so much shit.
No, like, the Burbs is like, it's like decent. It's fine. It's nothing to write home about.
Yeah. And it's not that I haven't actually watched, like, a bad movie since I've been doing this podcast. Everything's been fun. But The Burbs is in last place. But with all that being said, I think we can go ahead and kind of wrap all of this up, unless if you have any other thoughts, quips, comments on Blazing Saddles.
I think we about covered it all.
Awesome.
Oh, well, actually, I do want to highlight the kid-friendly version of Blazing Saddles, Legend of Paws of Fury, Legend of Hank, which came out this year.
Is it really?
No, that is literally an animated remake of Blazing Saddles. Like, it follows the exact same plot points, and it's funny. You have Samuel L. Jackson in a remake of Blazing Saddles, and he can't say any of the lines that you know he wants to say.
That he says so well. I love Samuel L. Jackson when he's playing Samuel L. Jackson so much.
He's the greatest.
You know, like, that's the best way to get Samuel L. Jackson. Like, I don't think people appreciate him in Snakes on a Plane enough.
I mean, the fact that the internet wrote a line and they put it in the movie just for him to say it.
Just for him to say it. It's great. I love that movie. I remember going into seeing that movie in theaters on, like, a Thursday night showing, going in with a bunch of friends to, like, make fun of it, and all of us leaving and going, the movie was actually really good. That movie rocked.
Like, it's one of those movies that it delivers what it promises, which is just
it really does.
On a plane.
Literally snakes on a plane, and Samuel L. Jackson being tired of the motherfucking snakes.
I'm tired of motherfucking plane.
Well, I know we plugged it at the top of the show, but Chance, where can people find you?
Yeah, Twitter, Instagram, Chance Wars _91. Check out my podcast, Notorious By Chance. As of recording this, we have dropped our latest episode. We're talking about Ghostbusters. We had Robert and Vanessa, Late to the Party, on to talk about it with. It was one of my favorite episodes we've done in a very long time, so I recommend checking that out. As well as Left Side Strong Side on the PJ Campbell Network, where me and my co-host Mike Deacon break down all the action of the football season, if you're a fan. And the season has a lot to talk about.
For sure. And if you all are enjoying what you're hearing, please subscribe, rate, and review to Flick and Reel on whatever audio platform you're listening to us on. If you're listening on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe, like, and comment your thoughts on Blazing Saddles, and be sure to check out and comment your thoughts on any of the other previous films discussed. Please don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notifications for any time we have new content drop, and you can follow the show on Twitter at NeverSeenItFNR, and you can follow me at Allison Salamone. And until next time, my friends, be safe. And I'm going to keep watching some movies. See ya.